We all got secrets.
For all of my straight and bi men listening and my gay and bi women listening, everybody who has sex with women and wants to do better, I've got a product for you. Have you heard of Kenneth Play? He is an Adonis of a man, and he has put together a video course teaching others how to please women the way only he knows how. I have personally had the pleasure of spending an intimate evening with Kenneth. I don't think I've ever had a first-time sexual encounter with somebody that was just 100% pleasurable. There was never a moment of pain. There was never a moment of meh. He knew my body better than I knew my body. He found pleasure spots in me that I did not know I had, and he made me come many times. I have gifted his web course, Beyond Satisfied Pro, to lovers of mine, and in every case, they have become better lovers as a result. And now I would like to gift this to you with a 15% discount. Go to kennethplay.com/closeted. That link gets you 15% off Kenneth's Beyond Satisfied Pro course. This is just for my listeners. Trust me, no one regrets being great in bed, and this course will get you there. kennethplay.com/closeted.
We all got secrets.
Hello, Pine Cones. Quick content warning for this episode. We talk about explicit sex acts. We talk about fat phobia. We talk about body image issues. Also, I'm doing something a little different for the opening of this week's episode because there are so many intersecting issues that I get into with my guest, Andrea. We'll get into all that later, but I wanted to start the show with the voice of someone who is very similar to her in a lot of ways, but has managed to find her way to feeling supremely sexy in spite of all the ways the world pummels the self-esteem of Black women, especially queer Black women in larger bodies. So, I'm waiting on a call from the polyamorous relationship coach, Shanae Jackson Kendall. Oh, there she is. Okay, yay. Shanae Jackson Kendall.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm so excited to talk to you. I've been a fan for, I don't even know how long. I found you through Remodeled Love, and I just love you. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, when I read what it was about, I was like, oh, okay, I can do this.
Yes. Okay, so my guest for this episode is a Black queer woman who is finding herself for the first time ever in a larger body, something she's not used to, and she's really trapped in old ways of thinking, mononormativity, heteronormativity, fat phobic thinking, a little bit of bi erasure where she's like, I'm attracted to women, but I haven't had experiences with women, or at least not very many. And so like, does that even count? So I guess I just want to give you free rein to address some of these issues and maybe how you overcame them, because you have so much in common with her, but you have an active polyamorous lifestyle, a polycule that you've maintained for years and years, and clearly comfortable with your sexuality and your body, and you're so beautiful and fashionable, and you showcase yourself so gorgeously. So yeah, I just want to let you talk.
Yeah, I can absolutely do that because it really feels like society makes it so that you either have to be unhappy with your body or want to change it. I think that it's okay to say, I love this version of my body, and I also want to get back to a body I feel more comfortable in. Both of those things can exist in their duality. And speaking of duality, you don't have to earn bisexuality. Nobody has to earn heterosexuality. We don't make people go and have sex with the opposite sex before we take their word that they're straight.
No, we just assume they're straight.
We just assume they're straight, right? And when it comes to exploring non-monogamy, as a Black queer woman in a plus-size body, my size has never, ever, ever stopped these cheeks from being clapped. Not ever, right? And I think that even more importantly, the Black people that I know, I think that if you put a size 2 and a size 22 in a room of the average swath of Black bisexual people, the size 22 is going to get more play.
Yes.
That's just the reality of my experience in all these communities that she's new to. So I think that I would encourage her to lean in to just being who you are. Just be able to stand in that truth. And especially when it comes to non-monogamy, Like, the beautiful thing about non-monogamy is you get reminded that your partner has choices and they're still choosing you.
Yeah.
They get to engage with other people in whatever ways that the two of you have negotiated and agreed upon, and yet they still come back to you. So that has been a really grounding reminder for me as I have navigated polyamory.
Have you ever struggled with body image issues comparing yourself to the beauty standards of society?
I'm gonna be honest, no.
How did you escape? How did you escape it?
It's because society wasn't created for me. This is not my society. It's one in which my ancestors were unlawfully and unwillingly brought into. Nothing about America, nothing about the Western world. This ain't for me. It wasn't created with me in mind. And when I look in the mirror, I don't wish I was a skinny white blonde girl. But I do look in the mirror sometimes. Like I say all the time, I'm absolutely in love with my body. Just take my stomach, right? If you throw a flat stomach on this little 4'11" body, baby, we'll be in business, right? But if you said, I'm going to take your belly, but also every other curve, I'm keeping the belly every single time. Because when I get into the bed and wrap my arms around somebody, I personally want them to be soft and round. And that's what I'm attracted to. And that goes back to my point about, like, it's okay to say, I love this body that I'm in, because no matter what body I'm in, I am worthy of love. And also, I preferred myself 2 sizes smaller. That's okay. You can exist in the both and. I would absolutely encourage her to find her personal style, define herself for herself outside of the lens of what she's supposed to do. And I think that will be helpful in every single one of those identities, right? Just define yourself for yourself. What do you want to look like? Who do you want to be? How do you want to engage in relationships? Just do what the hell you want to do and watch the magic that happens when you do that.
We all got secrets. We all got secrets. We all got crazy glass and air your soul. Oven kept in hiding, served bleaching monitor. Oven kept. We all got secrets.
From Kurtco Media, I'm Samia Mounts, and this is Closet Ed. Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. There are so many ways that societal pressure stops us from living our fullest lives, from expressing and feeling ourselves the way we were born to. As you heard in the opening, this week's episode goes into a lot of overlapping issues, all of which are complicated and multifaceted enough to each warrant their own episodes. There are people in this world who are surfing happily on the waves of new paradigms, and there are many more people who are dipping their toes in the waters and finding them less than hospitable, or at least too scary to dive into with abandon. It's hard enough being a woman trying to explore something as fraught as non-monogamy. It's even harder being a bisexual woman in a world that makes it so much easier to date and partner with men, and that doesn't provide models or scripts for same-sex dating. Add to that being a woman of color in a larger body, and boom, you've got some serious intersectional obstacles to feeling fully free to express yourself, especially sexually. Far smarter writers, podcasters, and journalists than I have gone deep into each one of these issues. So although I could write lengthy monologues about all of them, I'm going to try to focus on telling the personal story of this week's guest, as she laid it out for me. Before we get into it, a bit of housekeeping. All guests on Closet Ed are anonymous to protect their privacy. None of these people are publicly out, and being outed would cause serious negative consequences, sometimes devastating for all of them. All names have been changed, all identifying details have been left out, some voices have been altered. This show isn't making a statement on whether it's right or wrong to keep your private life private. There are really good reasons to guard the secrets of one's sex life, especially if how you live and love goes against the grain of social norms. But what I am actively trying to fight is the idea that these norms are actually normal, or that they're working for people. Because when you get people to open up to you, it's clear they're not. Almost everyone has a story to tell. Either they are actively expressing themselves fully in secret, or they are actively repressing themselves. languishing in the low-grade agony of longing for things they might not even know they want. Okay, let's meet this week's guest, Andrea. This woman is a powerhouse. She's Black, in her 40s, mother to a few kids, has a handsome, supportive husband, and a growing, thriving business.
If someone was exposed to my public persona, gosh, I have a lot of people that tell me that I have like a no bullshit sort of vibe, but that I also give a shit about like people, like humans. I very much am a fighter for what I believe is right, which usually just aligns with treating people with basic human respect.
Because much of her work involves cozying up to corporate clients, she keeps her public image pretty buttoned up.
Publicly, I think I would appear very hetero and quote-unquote normal.
And beyond the need to keep things vanilla for the business community, she comes from a pretty conservative religious background.
Mom went to church every Sunday and every Wednesday for Bible study and was in 2 choirs. So, most of the week I was in church. It wasn't really big and loud and celebratory and more free like some other churches that I went to later. It was just a little more conservative.
Her mom taught her to love and respect everybody. But the messaging she internalized about what it meant to be normal was pretty standard for someone who grew up in the 1980s and 90s.
My mom was a big advocate of difference in embracing all types of people, right? So I never got messages from my family that queerness was necessarily bad. But it also wasn't really something that was talked about. I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. So, AIDS was the message. And that was, centered around gay men. It's a gay disease. So even if it wasn't my family saying it, it was all over media. And I would hear about, when Arthur Ashe was diagnosed with AIDS and when he died, it was sad, but it was it's a gay disease. That was the messaging. So it wasn't even from my family or even from the church, I don't think, that I really remember, and at least anything in my conscious memory that was directly addressing queerness. But you just kind of knew that it was inherently not the norm. And, normal is what's okay. So if it's not normal, it must not be okay.
Right. So Andrea spent her youth trying hard to be the good girl she knew her mom wanted her to be.
My mom was definitely, in a protective way, not necessarily no sex until marriage, but, to be very careful with sex and to not, run out there and sort of be free and just, to, in so many words, protect your dignity. I don't know. I don't remember any words that she actively said, but I definitely remember the vibe of sex is important. Sex is for people that love each other. You don't just go out there doing it willy-nilly.
And she spent a long time keeping things zipped up real tight.
Sometimes I regret that I didn't really have a hoe phase,
Yeah. As someone who has enjoyed several very happy hoe phases, I do know they are super fun, not to mention wildly educational. But societal pressure is a powerful thing, and Andrea felt it from nearly everyone she interacted with as a young woman, peers and elders alike.
People just ask about your body count. That's always a thing, how many guys have you been with? But for men, it's badge of honor, how many you've had. But for women, it's once you go past one hand, ooh, you're used goods.
Used goods. Growl. That crusty old double standard. Can we do away with this, please? More after the break. Back to Andrea. Even as a young woman who tried hard to be a good girl, there were signs that she had a rebel streak.
I think in more of my youth, I was very much more rule-abiding, followed by the book, but there were signs that there was a rebel in there. But yeah, definitely the family aspect is very clear in my public persona.
I can confirm that Andrea's public image is the full expression of family values. Her kids are as happy and well-loved as kids can be, and she and her husband of many years have a rock-solid relationship with a foundation of friendship, mutual respect, and deep love and care. Their enthusiastic expressions of love, pride, and support for each other run like a river through their public life.
I would say that we started this relationship on the basis of friendship and honesty, always just being brutally honest with each other, of course, from a place of love and friendship and caring about the other one's feelings. But yeah, honesty, the fact that we communicate with each other even when it's a hard conversation. And we just genuinely care about each other. So everything is rooted in that. We might have disagreements and we know how to leave each other alone and then come back to it and have a conversation later or just move forward.
A big thing that connected them from the beginning, and still does, is the way they unequivocally support each other's career ambitions.
We truly support each other's endeavors. As I said before, we're both very ambitious and both very creative and want to do a lot of different things and be successful. And he fully supports me. You know, if I make more money than him at a certain point in time, it doesn't bother him. He doesn't have like that male ego, that toxic masculinity thing. Like, he doesn't mind that I'm the breadwinner, that I make more money. And if I'm like, hey, you know, I want to go to this thing, I saw this class, or I saw this event that I want to go to, and I want to travel, and even with kids, you know, he's like, go, I got you. And the fact that he has my back like that, and I mean, I have his too, but it absolutely helps us to feel like we have that agency and that autonomy even within a partnership. And that absolutely, I think, is part of the fuel that keeps us together even through the tough times.
Like I said, she's a powerhouse, nonstop hustle. And like everyone on Closet Ed, she's also very different beneath the surface than what you would see if you only knew her public image.
Maybe not so publicly, and not because of any shame or anything, but I'm bi-leaning.
When you say bi-leaning, what do you mean?
I mean that I have had sexual encounters with women. I enjoyed it and would like to do it again.
On top of her closeted bisexuality, Andrea and her husband have also gotten into some very juicy adventures together. But before I spill all the tea, let's backtrack a little, back to the beginning. Because the way their relationship began was also pretty non-traditional. Andrea was a few years older and more settled in her life and what she wanted. She already had children from a previous relationship and a blossoming career. She was in her early 30s, ready for a partner, and he was in his late 20s happy slut era.
It was the classic guy wants to sow his oats and woman was ready, and yeah.
Right from the beginning, their relationship pushed the boundaries of Andrea's good girl persona.
The first time we kind of went out on a date, that was rather innocent, you know, went our separate ways. The second time we went out, I got a little drunk and we got close. But I was like, I'm leaving because I can't do this early. And then like I came back like a few days later and I was like, I'm here for you.
You thought about it?
It was very obvious. It was like late at night after I had finished some work stuff. And yeah, I was just like, I'm coming over. There's the bed. Get on it.
Oh,
yeah, I'm here.
That sounds so hot.
I was like, well, it's the third time, so now I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I used to play this game, too, even when I knew from the get that I wanted to have sex with someone. The societal message I received was that if you had sex with a man before the third date, he would never respect you, right? Yet no man is afraid we'll lose respect for them for doing the same thing. We expect it from men. Grrr. I am not a fan of double standards. Okay, moving on. Andrea and... Oh, wow, I realize I have not given her husband a name. Okay, let's call him Nate. So Andrea and Nate were really vibing right off the bat, in a way that took them both by surprise.
Gosh, we were both like, I usually don't like people this much. I usually don't stay on the phone for hours. Like, I'm not tired of you yet, huh?
But back then, they wanted very different things. And they lived in different states. The distance made it easier to build a friendship while enjoying some occasional benefits without worrying too much about what the relationship was.
He wanted to be able to be free to have sex with other women, multiple women, and not be tied down, you know, and sort of be able to be the bachelor and live that life in a big city. So I was very much settled in my life. As far as like professionally and family and all the things, I had roots, so I could understand why we sort of were in different chapters of our life in that way. We were having some benefits in that time, but we were not together.
And that was okay for a while, but it became more and more difficult to deny what was developing between them.
I was the good girl, you know what I mean? And like he wanted to have fun with the not good girls. And I would kind of be like, all right, well, fine, when we're done. But we were really good friends. And that was what really kind of made it hard to just like complete cut off. But then he would say things like, I love you. I think he was actually conflicted, genuinely, of I want to do these things and this is fun for me. But there's something about this woman. You know what I mean?
I do know what she means. And I'm feeling a soapbox moment coming on.
Send me a soapbox, bubble, bubble.
Our culture runs on a monogamous paradigm, meaning our reigning belief system says the only valid way to have a romantic relationship is to only be with one person for the rest of your life, or at the very least, one person at a time. Because of the dominance of this paradigm, there is a constant conflict, especially for young people, between the desire for partnership and intimacy and the desire for autonomy and sexual freedom. Now, let me be clear. Monogamy is a totally valid way to have relationships, and it works well for many people. But it really doesn't work for many other people. And the problem we run into here is that because we've all been force-fed the monogamous paradigm and not presented with any alternatives that mainstream society considers valid, we think we have to choose between partnership and freedom. We believe as a society that there's no way to have both. This leads to a lot of emotional turmoil for people who find a person they know they want to partner up with at a time when they don't feel ready to give up their sexual freedom. Bad timing is one of the top reasons I've heard people cite to explain why they let that one person who checked all their boxes go. As a well-seasoned polyamorous woman with 2 committed life partners, I'm here to tell you right now, this idea that you have to choose is a lie. You can have both. There's a third door here. It's just really hard to see when your culture is screaming monogamy or die alone at you all the time. This is also sadly why we see so many people in supposedly monogamous relationships cheating and lying about it. In fact, the monogamous paradigm has actually normalized this. That's why you might notice that plenty of people judge cheating less harshly than they judge fully consensual open relationships. Cheating is normal. Non-monogamy is weird. A healthier paradigm for our cheating, lying culture would be one where every new couple understood that they get to choose monogamy if they both want it and non-monogamy if they don't, and that both styles of relationship are perfectly valid and can function healthily or not, depending on the emotional maturity and communication skills of the people involved.
Send me a soapbox, bubble, bubble.
After years of this deep, long-distance friendship with occasional benefits, Andrea ended up moving to the same state as Nate, and that changed everything. The distance had allowed the situation to stay somewhat contained, but now they could see each other whenever they wanted, and Andrea laid down a boundary.
I was just kind of like, look, I'm going to meet somebody, and if you don't get on board, we're not even going to be able to have the same friendship. No guy is going to stand for this, and I'm not going to disrespect somebody I'm with by talking to you every day, the way that we do for hours. So, what's up?
They cemented their relationship at that point and took the big step of moving in together, which had kind of a dampening effect on the sex they were having.
Of course, in the beginning, it's like, everything is like, oh, new hotness. It's great. It's brand new. It's like, oh, I want you more. But then, physical distance also, I guess, kind of helped in some ways because it wasn't like a regular thing. And then when we did start sort of being more together, there was definitely a dip in satisfaction on both sides and frequency. And we actually ended up in couples therapy with a sex therapist, which is very much not centered in sex because she's like, it's usually not the sex. And we're like, which is so true.
Yeah, it's a known thing that familiarity can diminish desire. This happens to most long-term couples, and it was definitely the case in their relationship.
It's a little harder to be like, ooh, I want you, when I know when you're in the bathroom pooping. It's just...
What? I find that very sexy. What are you talking about?
I mean, it's just I know what's happening now. Or I hear the fan when you walk out. It kind of kills the desire. And then, it's I think it might have been from Esther Perel saying, can you want what you already have type thing, and how flames need air in order to grow, So it's like if there's less space, it can very much so easily kill desire. It is a very common phenomenon in couples.
Oh, yeah.
That was something I had to learn. I think that was just a big piece of it. And it was really like his first major live with you relationship.
Working with a sex therapist really helped them start to unpack what was going on.
Yeah, I think we both uncovered that there were a lot of non-sexual mental blocks for both of us, and I kind of went into it not like, you're the problem, but more like, kind of like you're the problem.
Not like you're the problem, but kind of like you're the problem. That is what you just said.
That is what I just said. Absolutely contradictory. It's not like it was like, it's your fault, but it was like, I think you have some mental blocks, so let's go work them through together.
Right.
And, come to find out that there were quite a few for me as well. So that was, talking through everything from things that were sexually related, such as like me being kind of open to sex with women, and I hadn't done that in the past. And him kind of, wanting to be able to like have threesomes or things like that, to things that were not sexual, like, my anxiety or our relationships with parents, our childhoods, any attachment styles, all those kind of things that kind of really do factor in. You don't realize that really you're bringing your whole self to the bed. You think it's just your genitals, and it's not.
And on top of those very common challenges, there was the big hurdle that Nate had been clear he didn't want a monogamous partnership from the beginning. Now, he didn't want polyamory. He's not interested in relationships with other women. This is really just about retaining some sexual freedom without damaging his relationship to Andrea, his partner in life. And even though she knew she had some unexplored queer desires, that was still really hard for Andrea to swallow.
I have defaulted monogamous, and it was hurtful to me, to my ego, and, also just sort of challenging my belief system that he would want to fuck other women.
And still love you.
Right. And what does that mean? It's like, the I'm not enough thing came in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was tough.
We're fed this story, at least I was, from childhood, that if you have a partner that has desire, like just even desire for others, it's evidence that they don't really love you.
Yeah.
And so it activates that attachment system.
Yeah.
That abandonment feeling that we develop when we're babies.
Yep.
And that's a very difficult thing to face and to work through because it's the most primal instinct we have.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's mine. No, don't take it away from me.
Yes, especially if your history has led you to a non-secure attachment style, which both of us were. And if you're not secure, it's usually the opposites that attract.
Yeah. So are you anxious and he's avoidant?
Bingo, you know.
Yep. It's so common.
Or actually, the theory was that he was anxious avoidant.
Oh, so like disorganized.
So like, yeah, the one that like flip-flops in both. Yeah.
Does he have pretty bad trauma in his
childhood?
Youth? Yeah.
And I do as well, but mine was all anxious.
Okay, time out. If you are totally lost as to what the hell we therapy nerds are talking about here, this is a good time to stop and give you a little primer on attachment theory. I loved learning about attachment theory. It helped me understand my worst relationship hangups and those of my partners so much better than I did before. Okay, so first of all, what is an attachment style? It's the way a person tends to behave and react within an intimate partnership, particularly in conflict. And it's heavily influenced by their childhood experiences with their primary caretakers. So basically, all human beings fall into two categories as far as their attachment style. People with emotionally attuned, supportive, attentive, but not suffocating parents are the lucky ones. And they usually grow up with a secure attachment style. That means they don't have too much trouble trusting others, and they're good at setting boundaries and advocating for themselves within a relationship. In other words, they're not the ones who turn into screaming, sobbing little child versions of themselves, or punch through walls, or otherwise throw tantrums in fights. Everyone else, including me, just ask my husband, is suffering from one of the 3 insecure attachment styles. This means, usually, that there was some form of neglect, abuse, or trauma in childhood. It can be as simple as your parents ignoring you when you're upset, or yelling at you when you cry. The worse the trauma experienced, the more insecure a person's attachment style tends to be in adulthood. And just FYI, this isn't always parents' fault. Sometimes circumstances beyond anyone's control, like trauma outside the home, or systemic issues like poverty or war, can also really fuck up kids' attachment styles. So like I said, there are 3 different types of insecure attachment: anxious, avoidant or dismissive, and disorganized, also known as anxious avoidant. Typically, people with an anxious attachment style will cling and pursue and beg and cry to keep their partner from leaving them. That's me, hi. While people with an avoidant or dismissive attachment style are the ones who run at the first sign of turmoil. Needless to say, these 2 types gravitate toward each other like meat and tacos, baby. I already regret that metaphor. And finally, anxious avoidant or disorganized attachment style is probably the worst and most confusing of the 3, and usually results from extreme trauma in childhood. These people tend to switch between the other 2 insecure attachment styles, creating a very difficult, confusing dynamic for their partners. This attachment style is also the hardest to heal. But there's good news here. Attachment styles are not set in stone, they're fluid. If you, like me and Andrea and Nate, are realizing you have an insecure attachment style, there is hope. Through therapy, self-work, and spiritual growth, we can heal from insecure to secure, and everyone has the potential to have a healthy partnership, no matter what they've been through or how their childhood coping mechanisms have damaged their ability to trust as adults. If you want to dive further into this topic, especially as it interacts with the dynamics of non-monogamy, I highly recommend the book Polysecure by Jessica Fern. And no, I'm not getting any money for this. I'm just passing on a book that helped me. Okay, that's enough from me for now. Back to Andrea. So she'd known from the beginning that Nate didn't want to be monogamous, and they'd made the decision together to be partners in life. So how is this going to work?
We had first gone to a sex club. And my therapist is like, oh my God, y'all. Like, she's like face palming. Like, this is how you go into this for the first time.
They dove right into the deep end. Want to hear all about it? You will, after the break. Okay, we're back. Let's hear about this sex club experience, yeah? Can we get some sexy underscoring here? Oh, yeah.
In the front, it's all very PG-13. You know, it's like there's a dance floor, there's a stripper pole, but everybody's fully clothed, and they do it like that on purpose, which I fully appreciate. So it's like you never have to go to the back if you're not ready. But like we walk into like the main room, and there's like these beds everywhere. It's dark, there's music playing, and like you just hear people fucking, and it's just like, oh, okay, I turn around over here, and there's action happening over here. There's, I don't know, maybe a guy's eating a girl out, maybe a girl's sucking dick, maybe they're, 4 people together doing all the things, right? Anything that you can imagine. There's porn on the TV. It's just like this open environment of like, do what you want. There was another area with a bar that was in the back, so like women would be sitting at the bar with the titties out, just ha 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 ha, like it just looked like a good time. And yeah, there was just sex happening everywhere.
All of this was super overwhelming for Andrea.
Yeah, I was still so in my anxiety brain.
And to calm her nerves, she did something a lot of people do in these spaces.
I was not completely sober. But I was just so like, I want to do this, but I'm so scared.
I've done this exact same thing. It's really common and nothing to be ashamed of, but probably something to be conscientiously avoided. Because although Andrea did get the fun experience of kissing a girl for the first time,
I kissed a girl and I liked it, and I was like, okay.
After that, she and Nate ended up going a lot further than they'd intended.
there was this guy that approached us. He was like, do you guys want to come back to the VIP section? And he had this girl with him or whatever. So I guess, long story short, he was interested in me, of course. And in hindsight, we kind of felt like maybe we were a little, I don't want to say taken advantage of because that implies that there wasn't consent, but we were just so green going in, both of us.
There's a lot to unpack with sex parties and sobriety.
Yeah, very much so.
A lot of people overdo it to get past that nervousness.
Yeah.
And then this creates the conditions for people to feel very conflicted after the fact.
Yes, which was kind of what happened to us.
Andrea's memories of the night are understandably hazy, another downside of using alcohol to loosen up. But she remembers enough.
I think I ate her out. I'm trying to remember. I think I did. I'm pretty sure. And I know that she went down on me as well, for sure. But what was not sort of like on the agenda at first was that I did actually end up fucking the guy. And going into it, I had said that, I don't really want to be with other men. And I didn't. I was like, I only want to be with you. How do you feel about me being with other guys? He's like, I don't know. I'm kind of open to it, but I don't know. He's like, I might like it. And he did fuck the girl.
So you went all the way with this couple.
We kind of did, yeah. But sort of the fallout after, we ended up having a session with our therapist where he was actually upset about me fucking the guy. And I think it even caught him by surprise because he's like, I'm fine. But he wasn't. So we had to kind of work through that. So it's kind of like, it was good for the goose, good for the gander type thing. It's like, you want to fuck other women, but you're not really fully cool with me fucking other guys. So, like, I don't really know how I feel about that.
After that experience, Andrea and Nate kept exploring, but played things a lot smarter and safer. And in addition to the hard lessons they'd learned, Andrea also made some delicious discoveries.
I've learned that I do like to be watched. I'm a performer in general, so, like, that all lines up. Watch me, baby. That I don't mind all day long. Like, come on. Let's put on the show, honey.
But eventually, sex clubs proved to not be the best place for their explorations. Andrea still felt she needed to make sure this was something she really wanted.
Am I doing this because there's a part of me that's like, well, you have to keep him. You know what I mean?
She's also not that jazzed about the idea of casual sex with strangers. She likes to get to know a person a little, develop a connection.
It's like everybody says sapiosexual these days, but I really do think I am.
She wanted to go out and have an experience with a woman on her own, in a setting that she could control, where she could actually get to know the woman first. And your husband was okay with that?
He was, because I told him it was what I needed in order for us to explore this non-traditional relationship form. I felt like if he was taken out of the equation and I got in that experience, my body would tell me, you know what I mean? Without having the influence of trying to please somebody else that's there. I told him, like, look, well, if you want to, be with other women together, then I need to go have an experience by myself, and I need you to be okay with that. And I did. And I enjoyed it.
Okay, so let's hear about that. She'd made a profile on Tinder, looking for other bisexual women who were interested in exploring in the same way she was. And she found one who seemed like a great fit.
Okay, so we went out. We met up at this restaurant, this, like, tapas bar place.
What'd she look like?
Brown skin, beautiful, nice boobs, younger than me. Everybody's younger than me.
That is scientifically not true.
It felt like everybody that I had a connection with was younger than me. I had just got my hair done, and I was just like, I look pretty good today. The boobs was boobing. So, I mean, we sat down. We had a couple of drinks. We had a nice conversation. We had tapas. And then it was just kind of like, hey, you want to come hang out? I don't live far from here. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
So they went back to her new friend's place, got comfy, smoked some weed. Andrea had discovered in the last couple of years that marijuana really helped quell her anxiety.
Because I think what it does is it just makes my brain shut up. All of the things like the anxiety I talked about, all of the, what about this or what about that? And it just puts me into my body.
And things got steamy.
So we're kissing after we had smoked and, of course, play with each other. And I know that I went down on her and she went down on me. And I was kind of like grabbing her head. And I was like, oh, I got a little dominant energy, but this is nice. So, put the more pressure. And I was like, I like this. What the fuck? I like this. And it's not for a guy.
Your face. Oh, that was a good face. This joyful face.
Was joyful. I still think of it sometimes to this day, and I'm just like, that was a nice experience. And I soaked her bed. I was like, I'm so sorry. This is what I do. I'm sorry. I drink a lot of water, and it's just...
Look, if you're having sex with women and you don't have a waterproof mattress protector, you're doing it wrong. It's just period, end of story.
If I'm involved, you need a waterproof sheet, mattress, something, because it's...
Yeah, things happen.
Did that to my husband's bed the first time, too.
Well, that's about as juicy as it gets. After this delightful tryst, she went home to Nate and told him she'd had a great time. But then in their next therapy session, he revealed something that surprised her.
He said that he had actually had a woman leave him before for a woman. In our therapy sessions, we had to talk about this girl, and it was like, I kind of wouldn't mind seeing her again, and it kind of triggered something in him where he was like, I don't really want that, because I think that he's still very conflicted in it all, too, because I think that he is interested in alternative sexual lifestyles, but he's got all this programming, too,
Yeah, we all do. That's part of the power of the monogamous paradigm. We think monogamy will protect us from getting left for someone else. It won't, as anyone who was in a monogamous relationship and got abandoned for someone new and shiny can tell you. But for many people, monogamy provides a feeling of security, of comfort. And even if you're someone like Nate, who really wants to do things differently, the ways we are both biologically and culturally wired to cling to our partners, it totally makes sense to feel the way Nate felt here. So Andrea didn't see that woman again. Not necessarily just because of Nate's discomfort. It kind of fizzled on its own.
She kind of got cold. And she was just like, you're so confident. And I think she wasn't. And then she wouldn't respond to my texts. And then 4 months later, she may say hey, how you doing? And I got to the point where I was like, I'm not playing this game.
And soon after that, the pandemic blew through the world and shut down all talk of sexy fun with others. It also brought a boom in Andrea's business and a sudden dearth of time for self-care.
Oh my goodness, the adulting. There's way too much adulting. I think more so for me than him, it is so difficult for me to get into play, to get into my erotic brain, to get into that space, to even just want to have sex with my husband, let alone other people.
Andrea gained weight during this period, and it had a dampening effect on her sexual mojo. So at this point, Andrea and Nate haven't explored further. I asked Andrea if she misses it.
There's a part of me that does, and I know that it's important to him to get back to it. I don't want to say it's been a point of contention because we're okay, but he's let it be known, look, we had this agreement when we got married that I'm not just going to fuck just you for the rest of my life. I'm serious. And I'm like, I know. But my body, I need some time because this is not it right now.
What do you mean when you say that?
I don't feel confident in my body. I don't like my body. It's hard to even get into a sexual space because of the vessel that I have to do it with. He's even said that, our sex has changed, that I do look different to him, So he's like, I love you, but yeah, it's different.
That must be hard to hear.
Absolutely. Very. It's definitely something I've said to him when he's brought up, we need to go back to the sex club. And I'm just like, it sounds so pitiful to say, but there is absolutely a part of me that says, nobody in there is going to want me. And no woman that I'm attracted to would also be attracted to me. I absolutely feel that way right now.
I can understand feeling that way, but I promise you that's not true. And especially if you went to queer female spaces, women like you clean up. I'm not kidding.
Not clean up. Oh my God.
Really?
Thank you.
It's true. Andrea's feelings are valid, but they aren't reflective of her actual attractiveness in the real world. They're only reflective of the damage conventional beauty standards have done to her self-perception. And I get it. I'm the same way. When I can find my way to feeling confident about my body, no matter my weight, I end up attracting just as many people whether I'm small or big. It's my confidence that's attractive, not my body's shape or size. And Andrea, insecurities and all, rocks some majorly sexy confidence. I low-key hit on her at several points during this interview. So she definitely isn't giving up on her sex life. And in addition to prioritizing her own health and well-being going forward, she's also working to come to terms with the things she can't control and find her way to feeling sexy again.
I have been actively fighting to, I almost want to say, get my body back. Though it's also been a mental journey of, I'm not going to have the body I had at 29, at 32 when I met him. It's different now. And it's going to be different. So even if I were to ever get back to the ideal weight, it's probably still going to be a different body. And just having to come to terms with all that. I've been to a pelvic physical therapist because there were positions that I used to love that were not painful before that are now.
Which positions?
Definitely like from the back, but in a certain way. I used to be like, take me to Pound Town, let's do it. Like, wow, 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 you know what I mean? But I mean, now, I might be like, ooh, and I think that kind of, I don't want to say irritates him a little bit, but I've kind of called it out. Like, I get it. Like, that's a little bit like you have to, I don't know. It's like a restriction for him. Riding doesn't feel the same because I'm bigger. I have a belly. It's in the way now that I didn't before. I used to love being on top. I don't now. And then there's even like the logistics of typically when I'm on top, I squirt and I'm just like, I don't feel like changing the sheets. Like I have shit to do right after this. You know what I mean? There's so much mental labor now associated with sex. So my goal for the next 5 to 10 years is to work on finding my next body because I don't want it to be this one.
I asked Andrea if she was sick of waiting to lose weight to feel sexy again. If she was trying tactics to see if she could feel sexy now, just as she is.
Yes, it's a constant question in my mind of how do I live in the present? How do I enjoy now? Some of that has been helped with masturbation and wonderful toys. Just sort of trying to be like, okay, well, even if I'm not comfortable quite with another person, even my husband, at least maybe that can get me into my sexual space. Edibles are wonderful things. Those help a lot. Last week, we had a wonderful session. Wonderful. And I was just like, oh, this feels so good. And I don't even give a fuck about this stomach, it was great.
Yes, not even give a fuck about this stomach. I want more of that energy in my life. I asked Andrea how she wants things to look moving forward.
I would say if I could wave a magic wand, we would occasionally engage in threesomes. And in a way that he felt satisfied and he got the novelty that he's looking for. And in a way where I felt empowered and able to get something that he can't give me because he's not a woman. I don't know, once a quarter.
There are some guests on this show that I reach out to and ask if they'd be willing to share their stories. But most of my guests are people who sought me out because they wanted an opportunity to talk about something they rarely get to talk about. Andrea's one of those. She was excited to share all of this, which is why I was so surprised at these feelings of disempowerment she's been experiencing in her sex life. She summarized this very well in response to me asking what her reasons are for staying closeted.
I think as far as the bisexuality, I wouldn't really mind that so much, but I do think that for me, it's actually more the opposite way of like people are like, oh, well, you're not really bi. Like you're married to a guy, y'all have kids, like everybody's bi now because it's cool. You know what I mean? Like I kind of have like that fear. Like I said, almost like an appropriation because I am privileged in the fact that I live a straight life.
I've heard this from so many bi women who are partnered with men. They don't feel like they're queer enough because they look so straight. So instead of being loudly and proudly bisexual, they erase themselves. Because we live in a heteronormative world, if you're bi and partnered with someone of the opposite sex, you can easily fade into the background. If you have parents like mine who don't want to believe you are queer, marrying a man can allow them to live comfortably in their confirmation bias. Your queerness can be invisible even to the people closest to you. And if you yourself believe that not having much in the way of queer experiences makes you less bi than someone who has more experience, you can feel like you're appropriating. But you're not. If you have sexual and/or romantic desire for both genders, you're bi. You're bi enough. I promise. So that's why Andrea isn't out about being bi. And the reason she's not out about the non-monogamy stuff?
For one, it's just, I just don't really want people in my business. But it's also, there is a little bit of shame of my husband wants to fuck other women. Like, what must that mean? Even if I get over it internally to be able to say, well, it doesn't mean he doesn't love me, or it doesn't mean he doesn't desire me or doesn't find me attractive. That's what other people would probably think, or be like, oh, is she putting up with that? Like, I would never let my husband, blah, 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 blah.
I've had people say those exact things about my relationships. One of the most common questions I've gotten from folks who don't get it.
Why did you even get married?
There it is again. The cultural insistence that you can either be partnered or be free. I insist, nay, I demand both and. For Andrea, though, there's also the layering of her intersectional identity.
As a Black woman in a non-traditional sexual or relationship sort of space, a lot of Black people are very rooted in religious beliefs, traditional religious beliefs. It's like if you're a Black queer woman, like you got 3 strikes. It's a wrap for you, in America especially. So I think that when I'm already a Black woman, it's like adding the queer aspect or adding a non-traditional relationship aspect is like, I already got enough strikes. If I could avoid the 3rd, maybe I should leave that one out. But then there's a part of me that is like that rebel, that wants to go against the norm just to give you the big fuck you, like I have this conundrum that I'm in of where I come from and these deeply rooted beliefs and belief system and just wanting to be the good girl that my mom raised me to be. And, just be a good person and a good human and I hope I go to heaven and all the things. But then being like honesty and being real and giving other people permission that maybe you're not as confident and courageous to be their full selves is also a deep ethos of mine. So being a woman of color, I think, colors the experience in those ways in that we are already less free. We were born into being on the lower end of the freedom spectrum. So now to add any sort of other non-mainstream ways of life just knocks you further back. So you're kind of like, I'll just stay in line. It makes things harder, for sure.
I asked her what advice she has for anyone listening who might relate to her story.
To anybody that is like even thinking about this stuff, like you have to have the talks. You have to have the communication. You have to have the open, honest, raw communication. There has to be tears. There may be yelling. There may be you go to separate rooms for a couple days, but you have to have the conversations because it's the only way you'll survive. I feel like that's why people cheat, is because it's going to boil over. It's like a pot that's boiling and you leave the lid on it. It's going to spill over. It has to have somewhere to go. And if you don't let that steam out, I'm really trying to drag this analogy here, but you get the point. The communication is absolutely what saved us, and therapy. But yeah, I'm so thankful for our friendship phase because we were able to really get to know each other in ways where we weren't masking so much. And there was a fearlessness to sharing our innermost selves because it was less at risk. The stakes weren't as high.
Yeah. Don't do the thing where you're dating and you're putting on your best foot forward.
Oh my God. Yeah, and then all the shit comes out after. Yeah. No. Just open the septic tank from the beginning. Like, let all the shit out. The communication, the honesty, the friendship, and the honesty with yourself. That's the hardest part. I think it's much harder to be honest with yourself about what your innermost desires may or may not be. And from what I hear, a lot of people that talk about their queerness are like, yeah, I always knew I was gay. I always knew I was this. I didn't. I was in my mid-30s by the time I even thought about exploring any of this stuff. You're never too old. You're an evolving person. So just being able to be honest with yourself at intervals and keep checking in, like, what do I want? How do I know if I don't like this thing if I haven't tried it? And if you do decide to change things up in your relationship, making sure that it is something that you want for yourself too, and that you're not just doing it as like being the sacrificial lamb in order to save the relationship type thing. That's a recipe for disaster.
We all got secrets. We all got secrets.
And that is it for this week's episode. My deepest thanks to Shanae Jackson Kendall for agreeing to be my cold open call this week. Most of my cold opens are with friends and family members of mine, people I've known for a long time who are used to my shit. But Shanae is a person I'd literally never spoken to before, whose ideas and content I admire. I slid into her DMs asking if she'd do this, and I'm so grateful she said yes. And if you've been listening to this episode and relating to Andrea's struggles, Shanae is a relationship coach who specializes in helping individuals and couples navigate non-monogamy and polyamory in a mononormative world. She also helps monogamous people get intentional about their relationships. She's a treasure. Find her and all her links on Instagram at Shanae Speaks. That's spelled ChaneeSpeaks. You can also find links in the show notes. If you've been listening to Closet Ed and loving it, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. Those reviews help get new listeners to see the show. And as an independent production, every single share, every single review, every single mention when you're talking to your friends in your real life, it helps us so much. So please help support the show by telling people how great it is if you are loving it. Also, if you feel like you have a story that would make a good episode, you can email me at closetedpodcast, CLOSETED podcast@gmail.com. You can write your story or you can send me a voice memo. I will protect your identity with my life. And if I think your story would be a good fit, I will contact you to talk about setting up an interview. Hey. All right, next week, we're going to meet CJ, a man whose closest friends often have no idea what his sexuality is because he never talks about it and he's never even seen dating anyone. But boy, does he have stories to tell.
I've been tied up. I've been whipped. I've been, ice cubes, wax. Because I'm always like, what is the hottest orgasm that you can get?
Delicious. Until then, Pine Cones, I'm Sammy Amounts, and this has been Closet Ed. See you next week.
We all got secrets.
Hear that? That's what's called green noise. I'd never even heard of green noise before I discovered the BetterSleep app. Now I can't imagine my life without it. As a long-suffering insomniac and a person with ADHD, hello racing thoughts, BetterSleep has changed my life. Green noise is proven to soothe the mind, improving both relaxation and focus. So whether I need to fall asleep fast or settle in for some focused work, the BetterSleep app has my back, and I'm not alone. BetterSleep has over 65 million downloads. It's been featured in the New York Times, Forbes, and Today, and is an Apple App Store editor's choice. And green noise is just the beginning. The app has dozens of relaxing sounds you can mix together in different combinations depending on your needs. Here's the best part. You can try it for free for 30 whole days with the link bettersleep.com/closeted. That's right. You can get a whole month of great sleep for free. For real, this app is the only reason I'm functioning right now. I used to be so tired. Go try it. bettersleep.com/closeted.